Hello everybody. In an effort to be more transparent this year, I get so many questions, and my story, there's just so many different components to my story. But here is a super serious episode of Crazy Cool Colleen, otherwise known as Collie. So many of you guys out there in internet land have really honestly asked about how I got started. And to tell you the truth, I never really thought too much about it, but especially on these in-between times between my trips, I do get very reflective, looking forward. I also kind of look back, and because of you guys, thank you. I have been reflecting back a lot on how did this all start. There's lots of little things, and really what it came down to was downsizing my life, right? Physically, emotionally, mentally, financially. Yeah, there actually was a lead up to this trip of me turning 50. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about how I got started and how I became purposely homeless and hit the road. I am a very goal-oriented person. So as I've said in the past, as I approached my 50th year, I had a couple friends in particular who just really struggled with turning 50. And I thought, in my mind, I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to worry about getting older. I wanted to worry about whatever adventure I wanted to do, right? So it all started with me and my dear friend Laura Backus at Pendragon Stables in Colorado. We were in her horse barn, and we heard a radio show on KBCO, and they were talking about a person who walked across the country from coast to coast. And originally, that's what really started the whole thing. I thought, that's what I'm going to do on my 50th year. And that was, I don't know exactly when that was, but it was years before I turned 50. I think I was in my mid 40s at that point. So I had a good 7 or 8 years to think about my 50th year. And so that was the original goal, to walk coast to coast, but I had years to process it, right? Another thing about me, not only am I goal oriented, any of my closest friends know if I say it, I do it. I think a lot of people get used to people talking about their dreams and talking about their wishes, but not actually moving forward with it. That's not me. I make things happen, and I keep moving forward. And if I say I'm going to do it, unless something really bad happens, and I do. I just do it. I'm a doer. I dream big, I live big. I remember as the years went by and as time went on, so every year I got a year older, and I remember, especially with me and my friend Laura, we would say 7 years till my journey, 6 years till my journey, 5 years till my journey, and on and on. And I know that sounds silly, but I think stuff like that is important, because you set a goal date, you've got to stick to it, right? So I think verbalizing it, not just to yourself, but to your closest friends and family, as I did over the years, it just helps put it mentally in your mind, like, this is happening and this is when it's going to happen. One of the first big things that I did leading up to this, which ultimately landed in my success, so to say, and a lot of people argued with me about this. I grew up with animals. I grew up on a farm. I spent most of my life in agriculture. I've always been surrounded by animals and pets. And we had this one pet that my son Evan and I traveled across the country with, a little cat. That was like our last pet. And she was older. We brought her with us. And then she ended up passing away 6 or 7 years ago now. But she passed away. And I've always had pets. That was a huge part of my identity. And because it was actually also on my career. So a lot of my friends, when the cat passed away, dear Meow Meow, a lot of my friends were like, well, you've got to get another pet. You got to get a dog. You got to get a cat. And I thought about that, because I thought, if I have a pet, that means I'm responsible for it. I'm financially responsible for it. And I'll end up having to bring it with me on my trip. And that's a massive responsibility. And I know this because I have traveled with a pet on the road, being the cat. So I knew what that was like. And a lot of times as an animal lover, I feel like, was that really fair of us to take this poor old cat? And she wasn't happy at first, but then she adjusted to the trip. But we literally brought her out on the road and camping with us for almost a year. So I just feel like that's a lot to ask of any animal. Yeah, so I decided, a lot of my friends butted heads with me on that, but because they're like, oh, you can just, bring the pet with you. I've done that. It's a lot, not just for me, but for my pet. So, yeah, so I decided not to get another pet. I haven't had a pet in a few years now, which is actually kind of sad. And that's why when you see me out like walking with the farmer's dogs, I love to be around pets and animals. But for me, for these reasons, I can't have that in my life right now while I'm traveling. That was the first big thing. And when I made that decision, that really cemented it in my mind, like, holy crap, you're really going to do this. You're not going to get a pet because of this trip. Like, that just made it more real for me. And then the other thing that happened was that I ended up moving up to northern Colorado to be closer with my son. And then so I had a car, I had a bunch of just beat up old cars, and financially it's just so draining because you're either buying a brand new car and making that payment, or you're buying an older car like what I was doing, and you're paying for unexpected repairs, and then the fuel, and then the insurance, and not to mention the purchase price of the car. So I started to buy. So then at that point too, my doctor and physical therapist, I told them of my plans walking across the country, and they said, no, you're not going to be able to do that because of your joints. You're going to like kill your body, hop on a bicycle. And I rejected it at first, like I said, but then I went to Walmart and I bought a cheap little cruiser bike that was orange, and I called it the creamsicle. And I started riding that bicycle more and more. And then my car broke down. So then I ended up riding that bicycle to my job and back. So as time went on, I got rid of that financial burden. I didn't own a house, couldn't afford to do that on my own, but I was renting an apartment, and then I kind of switched jobs here and there. I always made sure, because then I bought another car after that initial breakdown. But then as time went on, I thought, if I can live close to where I work, I don't have to have a car. So I ended up just not, I think it's been 4 or 5 years now since I've owned a car. I just took my bike everywhere. And if I couldn't bike, I rode public transportation, or I got rides from friends. Or in Colorado in the wintertime, most of the winter you can ride a bicycle in Colorado, you just got to dress warm. But there were days where we had blizzards or whatever. I had coworkers come and pick me up or whatever. But I think the last year I did that, there was only 3 times that I had to get a ride from a coworker. Other than that, I rode the bicycle everywhere, to the grocery store, to work, just around for fun. So that's kind of how that evolved. Oh, there's just so much to this story. But I thought about this, I took notes, and what I'm seeing on my notes is, this is actually pretty important too. And another component to the story is that I am single. I am not with anyone, and I have one son. His father has passed away. And so my son is very responsible. I think a lot of you guys have seen him in some previous videos, and he'll be in more videos this summer. But like me, my son is very independent. He's such a great person. I'm biased. I'm his mother. So he was kind of raised and out of the house. So I'm just completely on my own. So I just thought, yeah, that in itself too makes it easier for me as someone a little older. I'm not tied down by kids. I'm not tied down by family. I'm not tied down by pets. I'm not tied down by that car payment and everything that goes along with a car. And then eventually I wasn't even tied down by a lease or a rental. I was just completely free. This is all to say, as the years went by, I just slowly downsized my life. I downsized the material things that I had. There was a period where I was moving a lot, so that helps too. Like you can move from place to place, and every time I moved, I just got rid of more stuff. I do have a few boxes and older photos and some knickknacks, stuff like that. But really, I don't have that much stuff. It was downsizing my life and downsizing my finances. So and this is another question I get asked all the time, what are my bills? These are my bills. So month to month, these are the bills I currently travel with right now. Obviously, I have the phone bill, and that's how I make these videos. That's why they're so crappy. Being on the bicycle, I can't really carry that much gear with me. But I have my phone at $55 a month, and I also pay for Spotify, which honestly, I'm not sure. I think it's about $12. But those are my 2 fixed bills every month that I know are coming out of my checking account. So because of that, I try really hard every month to try to at least keep $70 in my account. So when these bills come out, they're just paid for. They're automatic. They're just taken out. The other bill that has been challenging for me on the road is food. It just all depends, so that's like a big question mark. It depends on where I am, how expensive everything is, if I'm close to a grocery store or if I have to eat out of a gas station. Food, I can never really tell from day to day how much food is going to cost me, so I've got to be aware of that. And Willberry. Willberry is obviously, if you watch my videos, Willberry is my bicycle. What I had done originally when I turned 50, I had flown to California I have some great friends out there, Lauren and Mike. Hi, Lauren and Mike and the kids. I flew out there, I bought a bicycle, Willberry, out there, and then I started trekking, from there. But yeah, so those are the basic bills. Willberry the bicycle is also another big question mark, because when things are good, things are good. And I can get a flat tire, and having a flat tire is a pain in the butt because I have to get all the gear off the bike and then put it back on. But as far as expensive, having a flat tire is not a big deal. However, I ran into major front hub problems with my bicycle, and a lot of the bicycle shops that I came across just couldn't figure it out, and it turned into just stopping for repairs over and over and over, and that killed my budget last year for sure. So if there's a major bicycle problem like that, it's kind of like having animals and having that emergency vet bill. Yeah, sometimes when you're on the road, and the bicycle is my whole life. I literally live off the bicycle. So it's not a question of not repairing it, like I have to get it repaired. And sometimes that's been my biggest challenge, is coming up with money for that. So initially I had saved up a few $1,000s, starts trekking across the country, but over time, of course, you're going to run out of money. If you're just pedaling along and not working, that money is going to run out. And I knew that from the start. So the first year I was actually kind of okay. But after that, so what I ended up doing was just stopping here and there and working for a little while and then moving on. And I think really that's what my life is looking like right now. So I love it. It's a little stressful. So what I'm doing now is moving forward. I know my destination. I don't want to put that out there yet because number one, I don't know if it's going to work out. And number two, I don't need people knowing exactly where I am. But I'm headed to a Colorado mountain town is what I will say. I'm going to go there in a roundabout way. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a job there, which is silly because honestly, I don't need that big high paying job. Like I said in my previous video, because anything I make is not going towards rent or food or anything. So I can find a job pretty much doing anything. I can show up and people meet me and they see my energy and I pretty much get hired on the spot. But I still worry. I worry about moving forward. I'm trying to line something up before I leave. I haven't been successful yet, but I'm going to keep working at it this week. But even if I can't line anything up, I'm just going to hit the road. So that is how I got started. It was years in the making. I set the goal. I did things in my personal life to achieve that goal. And then even though I was very much ill prepared to leave on the bicycle when I did, it doesn't matter. I just kept going and I just kept making things happen. And I've just met the best people. I just put myself out there, put faith in God, put faith in myself. And yeah, so here I am in North Dakota. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. I know some things that are going to happen this year, but there's a lot of stuff that's still up in the air too. So yeah, but you know what? The fun of this is that we can all find out together what's going to happen day to day. All right, that is my spiel for today. Honestly, I hope that is helpful for people. I think my biggest goal or the biggest thing I have to say about this is set a goal, do things to achieve that goal by a certain date. And you cannot be flexible with the date. Like that's it. And just know in your mind that this is what I'm doing and this is when it's going to happen. And if you're not prepared, just do it anyway. All right. I hope that wasn't too long. I hope that helps people and I'll see you sometime next week.